with the black pieces. Liem has made his first move. Here we go.
Yeah, it's a queen's pawn opening. Liem tends to start the game this way, and we do see a queen's gambit declined. White not taking that pawn on c4, and we see Magnus adopt the triangle formation as black, as we said, as we call it. This setup of pawns in the middle of the board, rock solid. But Liem tries to go for a Catalan type of setup against it. This is a bit risky because it does involve a 4-pawn sacrifice, which Magnus accepts. Jovanka, risk-taking from both sides so far.
Yeah, definitely. And incidentally, this is a very similar approach to the one that Liem took against Jan Krzysztof Duda yesterday when he won that important game with the black pieces. And Magnus preserving that extra pawn, and this is why Liem has to generate some counterplay and jumps in with the knight to the center, attacking the c6 pawn. And Magnus, he's just on the defensive right now. He defends that pawn. And a very intriguing battle ahead. This is quite a trendy line. And White certainly does have compensation and often doesn't even bother trying to win back the pawn. Just says, have it, and I will just develop my pieces, put them on good squares and create a bind to suffocate the black pieces.
Yeah, White is significantly ahead as well in development right now. White is the first to castle. Black is still 3 moves away from ever castling his king. And White's light square bishop perfectly placed, exerting some serious pressure. White's knight perfectly centralized too. I did see Magnus just before he pushed his pawn to b5. He was looking out the window again. He was just like, what have I prepared here? And then he played a couple of moves. Now he's thinking again. I wouldn't be surprised if he looks out the window to the left. Oh, he's slightly looking to his left. And just above the screen here. And there we go. He looks again off to the left because for sure he studied this. But every human needs a few seconds to recall what they've looked at in the past. He might have studied this maybe 6 months, 1 year, even 5 years ago. It's just about what setup Black wants to choose. Black has a lot of options. The good thing about having no developed pieces is you can develop them all in a bunch of different orders. And I'm expecting one of the 2 black knights to develop now. Not sure which one. And once Magnus decides, once he starts activating, then it will be up to Liem to prove that he has compensation for the pawn.
Yep, I can tell you the most popular move is the one that Magnus has played. It's actually possible to just develop the other knight, as you say, and just return the sacrifice material. And Liem is playing in a very ambitious way. He's just like, OK, fine, I'm going to accept that I'm going to be a pawn down, but take a look at White's pieces. They are in commanding positions. And it's not going to be easy for Black to develop, and it's certainly not going to be easy to break out that light square bishop.
Yep, Black's light square bishop is a target for some of the white pieces, certainly. And yeah, Black still needs to castle.
But I have to ask you this question. I mean, can is one question, but should Black capture that pawn in the middle with the queen? Because that feels like it's poisoned, and it feels like maybe the computer gives it a blessing, but
why does it feel like it's poisoned?
You lose a lot of time to take this pawn. So Black is already 1 pawn up. You could make an argument for just being satisfied with 1 pawn. You could move the bishop out the way, then try to castle and say, OK, I'm a pawn up, or that's enough for me. But if you're really a maximalist, which a lot of the top players are, they will want to go 2 pawns up because that's a significant advantage. You also attack this rook in the corner. You attack this white knight in the middle. White can deal with that in a very simple way. You just move your bishop. You attack the black queen. And now the black queen has to run away to safety. I think I've seen a game quite recently where Black moved the queen across. I think that was Aronian against Shankland in the recent US Championship, or at least it was very similar to this position, offering a queen exchange. But, for example, if the queen were to retreat, let's say she goes the whole way back, you've basically lost 2 moves as Black. You've taken this pawn, and then you've retreated back where you came from, and you give White 2 moves. You've given White a bishop development move for free. You give White another move now. For example, White could use this to develop his rook, and White would gain 2 moves for free. So yes, you've won a pawn, but is it really worth it? That's like the eternal question in chess. Do you want time or do you want material? And Magnus decides he wants the material. He wants the time rather than the material. He moves his bishop, getting ready to castle, and Liem says, "OK, you didn't take my pawn that time. Now I'm going to move. I'm daring you to take my pawn, but this time it looks even more dangerous." If queen takes pawn here, Jovanka, I'm already looking for sacrifices that White can play. For example, taking this pawn with a knight, hoping to blow open this diagonal for the white bishop. And if Black's queen steps back to capture, then White has a few tempting moves. But at the minimum, you can just move the bishop. Because just to show off here, if the queen moves, Then a knight would jump in with a nasty fork, winning the game. And if the queen even takes this knight, then after a queen trade, white is a whole piece and 2 pawns down, 2 pieces and 2 pawns down even, but you can regain one of them now, and you trap this rook in the corner for next move.
Yeah, Magnus says, no way, I'm not touching that pawn, and instead reinforces his pawn on b5, and Liem finally defends the pawn on d4.
Yeah, so he's protected his center. Now Magnus does have time. Magnus will most likely just castle, and it will be up to Liem to prove that his active pieces, white's great pieces, that they do compensate for the 1 pawn. I'm expecting Liem, for example, to either gain space in the center or put some pressure on black's pawn formation on this left side of the board. There's lots of different alternatives for white.
I have to tell you, 1,000 out of 1,000 times, I would have taken that pawn with the black queen both 2 moves ago and in the previous move. Is that a typical beginner's move?
Yeah, maybe it would be a typical mistake for a lot of players, not just at the beginner level, but even quite experienced players. If we do go back, especially one move, especially here, we would say, OK, we can take a pawn. We're attacking the white knight. We gain time against white's knight. But unfortunately, we have to just back everything up with calculation nowadays in chess. And if you don't develop your pieces, if you're not quick enough to castle, they do say you should always castle by move 12. If you don't castle, then you might often get punished. So yeah, it's not necessarily a mistake to capture this pawn, but you have to double check that there's no immediate consequence, that there's no way for your opponent to punish you for losing time, being greedy. And yeah, I've made that mistake as well countless times in the past, Kaya, and that's made me scared now of capturing pawns. So I've gone the opposite way. I'm a bit of a coward when it comes to losing time. And Magnus, OK, he didn't castle, very surprising. He didn't grab the pawn, of course, but now he just moves his queen across. The whole idea is to protect this light-squared bishop, meaning that at some point, for example, if white is too slow, that black can push a pawn, break out. The whole idea is to try and trade off white's great light-squared bishop.
Very intriguing choice, actually, because I just have 1 game in my database. And it's a very interesting game, actually. It was played between Oscar Idol and Alex Bullen. And Oscar Idol is rated 1722, and he beat someone 400 points higher rated than himself.
Wow.
In this particular position. And he did that by moving, I think, the bishop out to the a3 square.
That would be a very logical move. Now that black's queen has abandoned the dark squares, white can actually prevent black from castling, at least temporarily. Now black cannot castle because the bishop on e7 would be under fire. And if you trade off those bishops, those dark squared bishops, then suddenly after the white queen recaptures, the white queen has X-ray vision and you can't castle through check. So black's king is still stuck in the middle. And yeah, maybe this would be a bit uncomfortable for Magnus to deal with. Maybe a small consequence of black's last move.
And I have to say, I'm looking ahead at the way that Oscar Idol played, and it was very impressive. You know, the rooks just came to the open line and very natural play.
Yeah, looks great for white. Just aesthetically, you have 2 great knights. You have the superior bishop. White's bishop is the kind of active piece. Black's bishop is the passive one. White's queen far superior to the black queen. White's rook's already in the center. Who needs a pawn when you can have great pieces? So this is the move we're expecting from white right now. In the current position, we're expecting Liem to develop with gain of time, and he would prevent Magnus from achieving his #1 goal, to castle.
Yeah, dangerous position for the world champion. And will he play it? What do you think?
I think he will, after a bit of thought. And this is a bit of a theme as well. So Magnus, he's on fire. He's winning all these games. But it's a bit of a theme. In the opening, it's never that impressive. Especially against Anish Giri yesterday, Magnus was significantly worse out of every game in the opening, but he always turns it around. It's the middle game that he's putting his stamp on. And, OK, he doesn't develop that direction. He goes the other way with the white bishop. I also want to say 8 wins in a row. I'm trying to recall any time that's happened at the top level ever. I mean, the one kind of biggest run that we talk about is Caruana winning 7 in a row in the Sinkfield Cup in 2014. And that's kind of gone down in history as the biggest kind of winning streak. But 8 in a row, that's
incredible.
It's very impressive. I mean, what I'm thinking of also is Magnus's run in the Julius Baer preliminaries, where he got 12 out of 15 points. So maybe he won 8 in a row then, but I don't know, but 8 in a row against some of the world's finest players in a head-to-head match.
That's incredible.
Unheard of, if you ask me. And there we see Liem putting his rook on an open line, but somehow I don't feel that Magnus is being challenged as much. I mean, it's still a very complicated position for Magnus, but he can get his king to safety.
I think he should as soon as possible. He's used to delaying it, Magnus. He likes to kind of postpone castling, often prioritising development or exchanges or pawn structure, but this type of position, it is about to explode. It's kind of a breaking point now. The climax is building, and you need to just run away. You need to play it safe.
I would be castling in a heartbeat. I don't think I would even pause for that. I mean, one thing I have to say for the black position is black is a pawn up. That's stating the obvious, but he can return some of the material. So, for instance, the c6 pawn, and once that pawn disappears, well, black's pieces get a lot more freedom, and we might see a situation where white's advantage, which was primarily due to the pressure on this pawn, has just dissipated and the position is equal.
Yeah, so you're talking about this pawn, Ivanka.
Yeah.
This is a big target. For example, if Magnus castles, I think white can pretty much win that pawn immediately, as you mentioned. Let's say there's an exchange. Maybe black can capture a different way, but let's say white's knight jumps into the centre, and now it's pretty much guaranteed you win this pawn next move, no matter what. But even if, OK, let's say black pushes forward. I think there's other ways to do this, but even if white can regain that pawn, just to prove your point here, I think black is OK. Black's rook will just slide across and pieces are disappearing. Yes, this is a dangerous pass pawn, but it will be blockaded. And can white really aim to push the advantage even further now? I'm not so sure. I think suddenly all of the activity in white's position is compensated for by the fact that black is rock solid. White's knight is a bit loose. The black bishop is about to spring to life. I don't think Liem should be greedy, you're right. So I think that's what Magnus should be aiming for, giving back a pawn just to alleviate the pressure. And going back, this is the current position. What else can you consider other than castling? It just looks so natural. It just looks so safe. I think most humans would have played it instantly. He spent 2 minutes, Magnus. He's down 6 minutes on the clock.
The only other move that I can think of is actually attacking the bishop.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that after bishop takes knight, if it captures, then maybe I would even consider pawn takes and trying to resolve the tension that way. But Magnus has had enough. He wants to get his king to safety. He's just run through the lines and checking that it's all OK. And now I guess Liem is working through those captures that we talked about.
Yeah, so Liem could trade off a set of knights here. He could trade off bishop for knight. He could maybe move this knight out the way at some point because he really wants to open up his rook's vision towards the black queen. But I haven't yet seen an effective way. The computer does indicate that white does perhaps have something quite strong here, but I'm struggling to see it, I must admit. White has the advantage, but how? That is the question.
For me, it would be this move.
Yeah, it might well be this move.
And the whole idea is that knight takes knight is, of course, met by bishop takes bishop.
Yeah, this bishop no longer protected. I really didn't like that queen shuffle that Magnus played a few moves ago. It just feels like the queen is a clear target on the c8 square, and she no longer protects this piece on e7. Suddenly, yeah, the black rook can indeed move, but once the white bishop runs away to safety, suddenly black has a problem with this knight, has a problem along this whole diagonal, to be honest. And again, look at the white pieces, especially the queen and rooks. So active. Compare them to black's queen and rooks. Not great pieces at all. So, yeah, it looks like Liem has found the way, the most accurate and most direct way to seize an advantage. There's already threats now on this c6 square with the white rook, the white knight in the middle, and the white bishop from afar. So I'm watching out for that pawn to just disappear. And the question then will be whether Magnus can equalize once the material levels out. It's definitely a successful opening for white, for Liem.
Maybe a comeback. That would be huge if Liem is able to win this game. He has so much more time on the clock, Liem.
And he does capture the knight. I must admit, I thought that this wouldn't happen, and we're going to see bishop takes bishop on the board. And the position that you're like our resident fortune teller, David. What you say on the analysis board tends to occur in real life. Okay, the bishop is going to go all the way back.
Normally, I'm saying don't play this; it's a mistake, and then the players they go for it. And I mean, I can't blame Magnus for capturing that knight. To be honest, I would have been reluctant because, again, I'm biased towards the two bishops. Suddenly, white has the bishop pair. But, yeah, maybe he had to. And Magnus is much lower on the clock right now, so he's in a spot of time trouble. He needs to make those quick decisions. And at least now the position is starting to clarify. There will be a bunch of trades. I just think white's bishop is going to return. Yes, you can maybe grab the c6 pawn. If you leave the white dark square bishop on e7, you take the black knight in the middle instead. But unless you're kind of forcing a win there, I would be reluctant to cash in. I think now might not be the moment to cash in.
I have to say, we have detected one tiny flaw in Liem's game, and that is he does force things at critical moments.
Yes.
We saw that against Duda when he spoiled a win. He just like lashed out, and we also saw that, mainly in his match against Duda, and in general. But I think he is looking at that capture.
Yeah. I have a feeling he'll choose the most direct path as well. You're right, Jovanka. A few years ago, just before the virus struck, in 2019, I played in St. Louis. I played Liem in 2 matches, in 2 games, classical chess. And OK, he does play a direct move. And I noticed as well, in both of those games, he was outplaying me. And just at the moment where he should take a step off the accelerator and just slowly maneuver, then he kind of broke through and just forced a draw. So he could have just kept the pressure. He doesn't like the tension necessarily. And wow, there has been a big transition, because just like the last game, one of the queens has been sacrificed. And this time it's Magnus's queen, and Magnus is going to try and build a fortress. It's like a mirror image of the previous game. We have to jump in. Black now is material down. So this is the current position. But if we jump back, Liem didn't spend much time before cashing in on the material, taking this pawn. Now, the white knight had to be captured. It's too strong. And after bishop takes knight, using this pin, white is winning material. So bishop takes bishop happened. The black queen dropped off the board. And if we do a quick count here, just like the last game, it's queen versus rook and knight. Here, there's more elements to the position. There's opposite color bishops. It's not clear who that favors. I like black's bishop in the middle of the board for now. But there's also an imbalance in pawn structure. So black has 2 versus 1 on this left side. What do you think, Jovanka? This shouldn't be a fortress either.
It should not be a fortress. But then again, I did say that, and I came to eat my words in the game that Magnus played against Wesley, where he blundered his queen. And I was like, there's no way this is a fortress. Too many holes in the black position. And it was a fortress. Here, I agree with you. The presence of the opposite color bishops seems to me that white has the upper hand, and I definitely think it should be winning. I'm going to put the odds on about 65%.
Okay.
I've been known for my optimistic percentages.
And it's not just that it's winning, but also it's that black is the one fighting for the draw, fighting for his life. A black win here is nearly out of the question already, because the white queen, she should be able to hold against any setup of pieces. And the evaluation bar reacts. This looks like a very nice move by Magnus. He looks like he's about to bring his knight into some decent outposts. But could it be just a mirror image again of that previous game, where getting active with the knight is not actually the best path? Maybe keeping it passive, keeping it as a defensive piece, which would have saved Liem in game 1 today. Maybe that was Magnus's best bet. But what is the idea now? I guess Magnus is banking on the fact that if the white queen moves, for example, to capture this pawn, the black knight will indeed get active. There's no time to take this bishop because of queen takes knight, and exchanges will help white here. White's ahead in material. So bringing the knight forward, I think this is Magnus's idea. And when the bishop moves to safety, for example, the black knight could create some counterplay, suddenly attacking this rook, attacking this pawn. And yeah, white's not completely safe here. So what is the computer wanting to play? It gives a huge advantage to white, but Magnus still has chances to hold a fortress later on. This is the current position. I'm expecting the bishop to just retreat somehow. And Liem, he shouldn't be too direct anymore. I think this is where he should take his foot off and say, OK, I've won material. I've done the hard work. I'm going to slowly step forward. So, for example, bring the bishop back. If the black knight moves, slowly push this pawn, slowly push the central pawn, slowly bring the white king towards the center.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be going straight for the kill anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the one pawn move that I would never make in a million years is actually to push the e pawn forward. If I did that, I concede all the light squares to black, and suddenly that bishop becomes a monster.
Yeah, this would be a strong piece. So let's see what the players have in store.
Yeah, Liem, he has so much time on the clock. And is he making a comeback, winning this game? Magnus Carlsen with an 8-game winning streak, maybe losing now, and we're gonna go to San Francisco to Tanya. What's going on, Tanya?
Just a lot of fun here, Gaia. I mean, Magnus Magnus just seems unstoppable, as Christopher mentioned himself, just so impressed with his play. Now, while in the playing arena, we've got our players fighting it out. I've got Christopher and a very special guest, Alison, here with us. Christopher will be trying out the ace in the sleeve game. He's already up to level 4. Christopher, are you ready for the challenge?
Yes.
Magnus scored 39 on this, so you just have to beat his score.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to level 4 yet. I'm still on level 3.
Okay.
But after I finish level 3, we'll get to level 4.
Sure. So while he gives this app a try and tells us how well he does it, how much fun he's having, we've got Alison here with us, who also is Christopher's childhood friend. She's also somebody who's doing a lot of cool stuff here for the chess community. FemChess is her not-for-profit organization. Alison, welcome to the show. Thank you
for having me. So FemChess is a nonprofit youth-led organization, and what we do is we hold online classes for underprivileged girls. So all of our classes right now are online, and we have about 50 different students and 20 different coaches in a variety of 10 or so levels. And Christopher Yu is our chess advisor who has gone over our curriculum and has kindly revised it to make it the best it can be.
That just is such a cool initiative. I want to ask you, what is your vision with FemChess?
Our goal is to bridge the chess gender gap and especially enable underprivileged girls to learn more chess, because as we know, chess is a very expensive sport. So with private coaches, 100, 200 an hour, and some people, they just don't have the means to do that. So we want to provide that free coaching for them to be able to learn that chess.
And do you find a lot of interest in the community amongst girls to take part in this?
Yes, I find that girls really, really like learning chess, but then it feels like kind of a social stigma. I feel like guys are more expected to play chess, but then girls, it's kind of harder for them to get into the sport because they're just surrounded by men. So we want to change that and enable more girls to learn chess.
How do you bring a change about in that?
So just slowly by slowly, right now we have around 50 students, so we're just coaching them every step of the way. Every week we hold 1-hour classes, and slowly but surely they're improving and they can start competing soon. So yeah.
And do they feel more comfortable with chess and more confident with their ability to be able to play in open tournaments as well with this program?
Yes, so actually most of our students are beginners, but we actually do have several that are competing already. So our goal is to get all of our students to be able to start competing and be comfortable in a tournament environment.
That's so cool, and you feel very strongly about this. We were chatting earlier, and it's so nice to see that you were really involved in this.
Yes, I feel very passionate about this because I was really fortunate to be able to afford private coaching. So now I just want to give back to the community that's helped me so much, especially like my mentors. My first coach, like Joseph Lonsdale, and then Judith Starre, and Abel Talamantes, who was the former director of MI.
That's super nice to hear, and we wish you all the best for FemChess and the vision that you have. Meanwhile, we've got Christopher back here with us. How did you do?
I'm about to try level 4, so
okay,
let's go.
Let's take a look. But did you have fun? Are you having fun with this?
I'm having an awesome time.
Is it tough?
It's not too difficult yet, but I'm sure it's gonna get extremely difficult the farther you get.
All right, well, we've got Christopher Yu here trying out ace in the sleeve. And I see he's struggling a little bit with this one. We will report back and let you know how he did. Back to you guys in the studio.
It's already getting more difficult.
That's fantastic, Tanya. And as Tanya told us earlier, she has tested this game. We have to mention Magnus played it at level 12. The Ace in the Sleeve game, which is a game within the Magnus Chess Academy app that you can now download on iOS. And Tanya was able to beat Magnus, who had a score of 39 cards. And we are asking you guys as well to share us your results. Take a screenshot. How are you doing? You have to start on level 1 and make your way towards level 12. And level 12 is where you have 3 minutes to solve as many cards as possible. That's where Magnus had a result of 39 cards. But share with us your results and maybe what level you are struggling with. Magnus is right now struggling in this game against Liem. Is Liem making a comeback, do you think, David?
Yes, it does look like White is in full control. Magnus is struggling big time now, and it's all to do with Liem's plan. He's clearly learnt from that previous game where he was playing against the queen. Now he has the queen, and he's simply trying to open up lines towards the black king. I love Liem's last move, pushing the white g-pawn forward. I think he's going to push that white g-pawn even further over the next few moves and trying, if he can, to break through on the king side. Jovanka, do you see any drawing chances here for Magnus?
It's really dependent on what Liem does. This is the thing. I think Magnus is purely in a reactionary mood. And there you see the queen slide over and she starts eyeing up the king on the right. All Magnus can do, I think, is hold tight, hold the fort, and just anticipate what Liem is going to do. So Liem clearly indicating that he's going to push the h-pawn, perhaps 2 squares forward to h4 and then to h5, and then maybe I'm going to get very optimistic with what Liem has planned there on the right. But Magnus just has to batten down the hatches.
Yeah, I don't think Liem's even going to play it that slowly, Jovanka. I think he's just going to forget about pushing the white h-pawn. He's just going to push the g-pawn, open up one line. That's all he needs against the black king. The white rook can swing across to the g-file opposite the black king, as long as you get one open file towards it. This is where you need your queens. Black has no queen to defend. Black's knight is on the other side of the board. Where are the defensive pieces around the black king? Magnus in, huge danger right now of just getting steamrolled over the next 4 or 5 moves.
Could be his first loss then, Magnus, in the tournament after now winning 8 games in a row. And actually, after winning the first game today, Magnus reached a new record rating on the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. 29.03 is his current tour rating. That's just insane. But if he loses this game, I think he's going to go back down under 2,900 probably. So he needs to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, and he loves those ratings. He loves the numbers. They really motivate him. That will be disappointing. He'll want to keep this winning streak going as long as he can. It's not every day you get a chance to win a 9th game in a row. But yeah, this one, I think he's just thinking about saving because already it is that desperate. And a long think from him as well. He's down at just over 3 minutes against 8 now. So it's the clock, the board, the pieces, everything's against the world #1. He brings his bishop back to the center.
He's just waiting.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's difficult to suggest a move for Magnus, I have to say. He just has to wait for the lines to get opened and then use a rook on the horizontal to defend. I don't see anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, Black will hope that he can have enough defensive resources to at least prolong, at least delay White's attack enough for him to get counterplay. And there we go. Liem is just going brute force straight for the black king, and Magnus surely can't capture this pawn. It's a bit surprising to me that Magnus even put that black h-pawn on h6 a few moves ago. That's created a hook. This is what we mean. White pushes his pawn forward, and using the black hook, the black pawn on h6, he's just going to break open the position. He's just going to tear open some lines, and it feels like you have to block it up. You have to block up as many lines towards the black king as possible. I just don't see anything else. If you take this pawn, White's queen will recapture, and White's queen is going to give checkmate within a few moves.
Yeah.
It's that simple at the moment.
Yeah, the big problem, though, for Magnus is that if he steps up with a pawn, then, OK, we see Magnus trade the knight for his bishop. And I was just going to say, if you step up with the h-pawn, the g-pawn is going to be doing a demolition job on the black king side. I mean, it's going to take a step 1 square forward.
Yeah. For example, it will sacrifice its own life just to open up a file. I don't think you can allow this pawn to exist. If you kind of bypass it, then later White's queen is just going to sneak over, grab this pawn, and use the white g6 pawn to deliver some mating threats. This would be terminal. Takes a few moves, but it's game over. And if you do capture, as you say, Jovanka, if you do take this pawn, now White's rook will switch directions. You could switch with the queen as well, and you're breaking through. This pawn is just dropping. You can defend it with the king, but now the white queen adds the pressure, and you can say goodbye to this game because White's queen and rook together are overpowering that lone black king. I just don't see any way to save it. This is the current position. How do you keep the lines closed? I mean, it feels like the g-file is just is the way in. White only has one way in, but it's enough. No fortress here. Too many pieces as well to hope for a fortress. If there was a rook trade, then maybe Black could hope to hold. If it's just a queen alone that you're fighting against, but a queen and rook together is too much. Okay, Magnus takes, and pushes a pawn. You were right earlier, he's going to try and defend across the board horizontally. So, for example, if the queen steps forward, he's going to use his rook to try and defend this pawn. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it should be enough. Not only can white switch his rook at the right moment, but he can also start pushing a pawn. This is going to act as a battering ram.
Yeah, and well, he doesn't actually step forward with the rook. Instead, he grabs material, just going for that philosophy. Well, you know, if you're suffering, you might as well suffer with some extra material.
Yeah, so at least Magnus has some hope of counterplay. He needs 3 moves to really create a threat, but can he survive 3 moves? Liem has 3 or 4 moves to deliver checkmate, and he's going for it now. He swings the rook across, the black rook moves, the white queen takes a pawn. Using this pin, the white queen cannot be captured, so black's rook shuffles across as well, and all white needs to do is step back, step somewhere safe with this queen.
Yeah, she should protect her pawn on c5, and then after that, well, there's a pawn that's not working. Okay, he attacks the bishop. I also quite like this one. And then I was just going to say there's a pawn that's not working, the h-pawn. And let's push that one up the board after grabbing material first.
Yeah, why not grab material? Now he's taken all the sting out of black's pawns. This pawn alone won't do any damage. I think we might see Magnus resign soon because, as you mentioned later, Jovanka, this pawn is going to kill the game. This pawn is going to open up the black king. Magnus, he'll try and survive, but the king is too open. The black piece is not coordinated. It's the final stages.
Wow, just everything going wrong for him in this game. We're only at move 34, 35 now.
Yeah, full credit to Liem. He got a great opening, but a lot of players in this tournament, they've got great openings against Magnus, but they haven't finished it off, or they've let things turn around, or they played too passively. He's gone straight for the kill. And we mentioned that his one weakness, maybe Liem, is being direct, but it can also be a great strength, being direct, and especially against someone like Magnus, before he gets balance, before he gets control. And yeah, it feels like Liem struck just at the right moment, and Magnus had no answer. And he's closing it out really nicely, very calmly as well, not rushing.
That means this match will be tied after Magnus won the first game with 2 rapid games to go. Will we see a winner in the rapid portion, or will it go to blitz tiebreaks? We also see the other games. Action is happening between Prag and Duda. Duda won the first game, and in the second one, Prag sitting in San Francisco, the bar has been over to the young Indian side for big parts of the game, but now I see it's in the middle. So is that going to be a draw? What do you think?
Ooh, there's a lot of life left in that one between Prag and Duda. I still quite like Prag's chances, but Duda, as he always does, he's escaped a bit. He's very slippery.
Lucky.
He's very hard. Well, yeah, I want to use the word lucky, but he makes his own luck. He's very hard to pin down. I think anyone looking to defend losing positions should study his games, Duda, because he's good at creating practical chances, tricking the opponent.
And it's going to be such good news for him if Magnus loses this game against Liem Le, giving Duda a chance to maybe catch up with Magnus on the standings if Magnus loses today's match and Duda wins his match in the rapid portion. I'm also noticing Giri Ergaisi. Giri lost the first game today sitting in San Francisco, and the bar is basically saying that he's losing another one against Arjun.
Yes, and that one should be over quite soon.
Wow.
Arjun is winning a rook and pawn endgame, and I think in quite a simple manner. He's just got a couple of extra pawns there. Yeah, Giri, it's been a downhill few days for him.
Yeah.
He started the tournament so well.
The thing is, Giri seems to be in a pensive mood. You know, I was looking back at some of the older interviews, and even after he won his game against his match against Liem Le in the very first round, he did kind of mention that he didn't necessarily enjoy playing chess, but he did enjoy winning. And I wonder whether that's a source of the problem as well. He's just not relaxed enough when he's actually performing. He's, you know, he enjoys the result, of course, but there's too much tension when he's playing chess.
Something's up. Anish Giri struggling, but we have seen earlier in the tour finals a huge comeback from him after losing 2 games against Prag. He did win 2 rapid games, and he won the match in tiebreak. So it's still possible for Anish Giri. Wesley So, he won the first game today against Shahriar Mamedyarov, and the bar is over to his side in game 2 as well. Could go up by 2 points. Wesley So Mamadiaro is struggling playing at night in Azerbaijan. Not the best time for him to play chess. But Liem, he is sitting at home in St. Louis. It's a good time for him to play chess. The bar has gone slightly down, but is he still winning this game against Magnus?
He should be. I think until we see either that black pawn create some serious counterplay by running down the board, or maybe an exchange of rooks, then perhaps Magnus has some chances. But until we see that happen, it feels like it's all about the black king. Liem's idea, at least, it's very human. He's lifted his rook up the board. He's going to swing that rook across. Just one square to the right to the h-file. He's going to step it behind the white queen and try to head for some checkmating ideas. If he can support the queen, coordinate those two pieces together, then it should be game over. But the computer thinks Magnus might have some chances to defend now. I think from a human's point of view, though, when you're down at 2 minutes, when you're facing a queen, so many countless threats almost, it's going to be too much to handle.
Yeah, but it's Magnus. And I suspect that his only hope lies in pushing that b-pawn. And whereas if we look at Liem's plan, it kind of involves a trade of rooks if he's going to capture that g-pawn.
OK, I don't think he's going to bother with pawns, Jovanka. I think he wants checkmate.
Checkmate. Yeah.
But the problem is, how does the black... I mean, maybe at some point we'll see the black king start running towards the centre. How does the black king stay safe behind its own pawns? Simply rook h3, the white rook shifting across one square, that's going to create some diabolical threats.
Yeah, I did miss that when the king runs over, the queen does have a checking square on d8.
Yeah, I'm already struggling to find a defence for Magnus. Magnus clearly struggling to find a defence as well. Under 2 minutes now. Let's just show the threat. So, for example, black here, OK, he moves his rook across. What is the idea? So, for example, if he'd pushed his pawn, then rook h3 does create almost unstoppable checkmating ideas. You can't even run now, as you mentioned, Jovanka, just because if the king starts running, this would end the game immediately. And, OK, this is on the cards now. Liem has created a checkmating threat. He has shuffled his rook across. So the idea is queen to h8 into the corner, trapping the king. Magnus, he has to move his rook. He cannot move his king. He has to move his rook somewhere just to create an escape square for his king. I'm not sure whether you step up the board, maybe you step across. You have to run away. You have to flee as fast as possible with the black king. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. You have to move this rook. Remember, king f8 falls into immediate checkmate. We've seen Prag blunder into mate in 1. I don't think we'll see Magnus do the same. So, OK, he has to move his rook out the way. This is the square the king wants to use. And he steps back. OK, so at least now he can run. Still feels like it's teetering on the edge.
Yeah, it feels shaky as anything. And the queen comes, gives check, king runs, and I'm suspecting the rook will move 1 square to the g3 square, attack the pawn on g7, and black's rooks will be so passive.
Yeah, if black has to put his rook on this square just to defend, then it's not going to be happy days for Magnus. White can start pushing this pawn forward, for example. Yeah, plenty of ways to win this game, surely. 1 passive rook means you will never have counterplay. Yeah, and Liem does indeed shuffle his rook across. And this one, yeah, I think now we can say Liem is a heavy favourite to convert. It shouldn't take too much longer.
Could be a huge result this for the tour finals. Magnus losing this game. If he ends up losing the match, then anything can happen with 2 days to go. It's going to be a fun weekend here in the tour finals. No matter what, Magnus after this match still has Prague left tomorrow, and he's going to finish off against Duda on the very final day. And imagine if whoever wins that final match, Duda Magnus, is the winner of the tour finals. That is the dream scenario, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for that matchup. Because traditionally, Magnus has had the upper hand when he plays Duda. But in the last tournament, the AIM Chess Rapid, it was Duda that knocked Magnus out.
That's true, yeah.
So, yeah, he's on great form.
Yeah.
And there comes the H-pawn. It's 2 squares away from its destination. And Magnus just has to retreat the rook. The f5 rook, put it on f6, just curl up in the smallest ball possible and start praying.
Yeah, he's got to pray to all the gods here because, yeah, it's just hopeless. It's beyond hopeless at this point. You just need a trick. And White's moves are just so straightforward. That's what we talk about in chess sometimes. We can see the evaluation bar clearly on White's side, and unless there's a massive blunder, it will stay that way. It's not the type of position where if white doesn't find the best move every time, it will immediately drop. This is the type of position where it's going to stay in white's favour for a long time. And as Jovanka mentioned, the black rook drops back, but white's queen is now free to retreat and maybe change angles, switch tack, and looking good.
Yeah, he had Wesley So looking over his shoulder there, Magnus Carlsen. It's another win for Wesley against Mamedyarov. So now, with only a draw in game 3 with the white pieces, Wesley will win that match. Same situation for Ergaisi. He only needs a draw in game 3 against Geary to win the match. This one, if, and I think maybe I can say now, when Magnus loses, this match will definitely go to 4 games. We are in for a lot of action between Liem and Magnus Carlsen today.
13, 12 seconds, 10 seconds, and the world champion has terrible position. 6 seconds, 5, 4. You have to make a move, Magnus.
They lose on time. No.
No.
Ooh, he makes that move with 2 seconds left, and that's often a telltale sign. That's a giveaway that Magnus is struggling when he's this low on the clock. It's normally because the game has been going against him the whole time, or there's too many options. And here there's a lot of options for black, of course, but they're all losing. And he attacks the white queen. The white queen can retreat anywhere along the diagonal, any safe square. I think just plant it in the middle of the board.
Does she have to move? There is a tactic on the board.
Don't even have to move. You're right, Jovanka.
That's the move that I would instinctively play. I wouldn't even think. I would just pick up my rook and capture the pawn on g7.
Yeah, take this pawn. And he doesn't go for it. But this would have been a nice way to win. This would have been a check. And after the rook is captured, the other rook is no longer protected. And you've won a pawn in the process. Maybe Liem just wanted to keep a set of rooks on the board, but this would have been a killer. The h-pawn now would be passed, and it would be about to promote. So this would have ended the game pretty much. Instead of taking this pawn, he dropped back to the centre. I saw this one as well. I thought, oh, this looks good. But Magnus now, he's reacted by pushing to g5. So he's hoping that any checks can be met by the black king moving. But en passant as well, is legal. You can take this pawn.
And I do wonder whether Liem will have a chuckle when that move was played, primarily because Duda did this to him as well.
Yeah.
So it's an unexpected move, and it's unfortunately, just like in the game with Duda, it was unsatisfactory, but has good surprise value.
Yeah.
And rook takes pawn on the board.
Yeah, I was going to say you can be flashy here, and Liem is flashy. He takes this pawn, and the whole idea is now there's a check. And when the king moves, you'll pick up one of the 2 black rooks, no matter what. And the king does shuffle across, and it hides out in the corner. So finally, you find a safe square, and you've traded 1 set of rooks. But unfortunately, white does have potential for a second pass pawn. These 2 are going to start marching. And here we go. One of them steps forward. The other one's going to join now. If these 2 white pawns didn't exist, maybe you have some chances to draw. But there we see on Magnus's camera, there's no chance now. Black's rook is also just paralyzed. It's stuck. You're playing without a rook. He even gives up his central pawn just to free that piece. But white can take it. White has 3 passed pawns, and this will be enough to win the game. I think we'll see Magnus resign any moment now.
White will take that pawn with a lot of pleasure, and it's going to be game over. Queen takes pawn, queen give a check. Anything can be played. And
does he even remember how to resign, though, Magnus?
It's been a long time since he lost a game. Not in this tournament. I think it's been a month since he lost a game.
Yeah.
Maybe since he lost to Duda in the last tournament. Or maybe in the Fischer Random World Championship. That was the last time he lost.
But then you don't have to press resign.
True. And he's just going through the motions. He's forcing Liem to show that he knows how to win. But yeah, unfortunately here, everything wins. So a couple of checks, and then we will see white pick off that pawn in the middle.
And that is basically the end.
That is the death bell, yeah. It's going to ring. And, wow, look at Liem. He doesn't even bother capturing that pawn. Instead, he just walks his king over to the action. God, that is nice.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. You could have just taken that pawn for free, pretty much. But he has the idea of maybe trying to checkmate. And in order to checkmate, remember, you can't use a queen alone. You need the support of other pieces. Often that's your own king in the endgame. So the white king will close the door. It will cover the escape squares of the black king, and then the white queen will try to sneak behind and deliver checkmate. For example, if the white queen can somehow get to the h8 square in the corner from behind, that black king is trapped. And there we see the evaluation bar does react. This is a mating net. The black king has no safe haven to hide on anymore.
Yeah.
And there we go. Magnus does finally admit defeat.
Losing his first game in the tour finals, Magnus Carlsen is now tied with Liem. This is such an important match.